everyone, this is Dawn. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome to another Makers with Heart video hop. This month, the Makers with Heart are featuring stencils and their layering components. So I'm going to work with the Snowflakes Slimline stencils, and there's 3 stencils in this pack, and there's a coordinating embossing folder. I'm also going to use the stamp set called Snow Cute and the Gnomes for Winter paper collection. Okay, so along with the coordinating colors. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to trim my cardstock down to 3 1/4 by 8 1/4, and I'm going to lightly mist it with water before running it through my embossing folder, and this helps the paper emboss without cracking quite so much, but the cracking won't matter, and it doesn't matter if you see the white core, because I'm going to use stencils over the embossed areas, and so the ink will cover those areas. All right, so I'm getting out my Altenew sticky mat, and I'm laying down the first stencil. There's no order to the stencils, so you just pick whichever one you want to start with, and whichever openings look okay, and whatever color you want to choose. It's really up to you. So there's no rules. Just pick a stencil that you like the openings for, and start stenciling your color in. Okay, so the first one I'm going to pick is periwinkle. So my cardstock is periwinkle, so I'm doing tone on tone. All right, so I'm just going to use a blending brush and blend over these areas with the color. You can go as dark as you want, you can go as light as you want. There's a lot of options with this particular stencil pack. Okay, moving on, I'm shifting the stencil up and placing it down again. Later on, I'll start using purple tape. There's just not quite enough of the stencil that's hanging over the edges to be able to secure it down to this sticky mat. So this one, I'm just kind of holding it because there's not as many openings, so I can kind of hold it with my finger and keep it from shifting. And there's a lot of forgiving areas with this particular stencil. Okay, so we've got the first color down, and then I'm going to pick up the next stencil, and then we'll get that set down, and I'll pick my next color. So I'm going to show everything with this first stencil background, and then I'll speed things up for the next ones. I'm going to make 3 cards, and I'll show you how to do the backgrounds for the 3 cards, and then we'll turn them all into cards at the end. Okay, so we've got this one lined up, and I'm picking coordinating colors that go with the Gnomes for Winter collection. So we'll get this one secured. And there's more openings with this one, so I want to make sure it's all lined up. And then my next color is going to be mist. So we'll get this one secured, and then we can start adding color. Okay, so this color is going to be mist, and same process, just using my blending brush and blending over those openings on the stencil. So you can do multicolored snowflakes. And we'll speed this up, get our color down, and then we'll shift everything and make sure our stencil's lined up and continue adding color. Okay, and then we'll take this one off and add our next stencil. It's always kind of like magic when you remove your stencil and see what's left behind. Okay, so the last color I'm going to use is Sapphire. And just note that sapphire, dark colors like sapphire and royal and black, they all stain, but they don't ruin the stencil or stamp. They'll just leave color behind after you wash it off. So don't make that stress you out. It'll still work just perfectly like it always has. It's just going to leave some color behind. Okay, so now I'm going to put everything into my splat box, and I'm going to mist it with some Tim Holtz mica spray. And this one is called the brushed pewter. And then I'll blot it with a paper towel and pull that up. So I want the sapphire to have a little shimmer to it on those areas. Okay, so we'll set that aside to dry and we'll start on our next one. Okay, so this time I'm using sapphire cardstock, and again, it's cut at 3 1/4 by 8 1/4, or yes, 3 1/4 by 8 1/4. I've run that through my embossing folder, and we're going to use our stencils again. So I'll line this one up, and the first color that's going to go down is going to be sapphire, so it'll be tone on tone. Making sure I'm using the right blending brush. And so we'll go ahead and add sapphire all over. And then we'll shift everything and continue adding color. Okay, so that's tone on tone. And then we'll add our next stencil. And the next color that I'm going to use is periwinkle, I believe. So we'll add periwinkle to those openings. So all of the Makers with Heart this month are choosing stencils and then coordinating products that go with those stencils. So they could be layering stencils, they could be stencils with embossing folders, stencils with stamps for their projects. Okay, so we've got that one all done. And then I'm going to use some pigment ink. Okay, so this is a pigment ink that's it's a metallic frost color, and I'm going to put that embossed piece down on my Versamat, and I've secured it with some masking tape, and I'm using a brayer, and I'm just going over those openings with this metallic pigment ink and a brayer to get color into those openings. Okay, and then we'll peel the stencil off, and because it's pigment, it's going to show up on that darker color. And then I'm going to put everything in my splat box, and I'm going to use some of this shimmer spray and just give it a little sparkle all over. So a few spritzes of that, and then we'll set it aside to dry. Okay, for our last one, I'm going to use the light side of mist, and I'm going to bring in a brayer. So this side of the stencil is the one that has the background that's raised. So the embossed parts are on the debossed side. So you'll see what I mean as soon as I start adding color. So the color that I'm putting on with a brayer, it's sapphire. And it's leaving color behind just on the background that's around the snowflake embossed images. And then I'm going to lightly spritz with some water to loosen up that color and run the whole thing through. So the color gets picked up by the background around the snowflakes. And then I'm going to put the whole thing in the splat box, and I'm going to use some of this Tim Holtz mica spray. This one is Winter Frost, and I'm going to spritz all over. And it's hard to see in real life, but this shimmer spray or mica spray is just amazing the way that it looks after it dries. It's so cool. And it's very subtle because the colors are all similar, but it really does look striking in person. I highly recommend giving it a try. All the colors are just really cool. So, okay, so now I'm going to make some elements to go on the front of my card. So I've taken the sentiment that says "Thank you so much" and some snowflakes, and I've placed them in my Misty, and I'm inking them up with sapphire ink, and I'm stamping them out on white daisy. So I'm going to stamp all of these images out on white daisy cardstock and mist cardstock and periwinkle cardstock. I'll do the rest of the stamping off camera, and I'm also going to die cut them with the coordinating dies off camera. Okay, so I have these all stamped out, and then I'm going to trim around my sentiment and dovetail one end. Okay, I've also added 2 extra layers of cardstock to each of these snowflakes and stacked them so they're like chipboard pieces. And I'm just going to place them in my splat box and give them a little spritz with this shimmer spray so they're nice and sparkly. Okay, so those are going to be the elements for my card. And I'm going to use the same basic design. So the first one, I've got a base of sapphire, which is the slimline card size of 8.5 by 3.5. And then I've dovetailed some of the papers from Gnomes for Winter to back that sentiment. Okay, so we'll skip ahead because I'm just gluing everything together. So I'm laying everything down, and then I'm stacking those snowflakes on top of one another. And then I need to add a little extra bling, right? So I'm going to add some of these crystals from Pink Fresh Studios, and I've scattered a whole bunch of those around. So there's my first card, and we've got some close-up shots. And that texture with the embossing, and then all the different colors with the stencils, and then the extra bling is just, it looks really cool in person. Lots of sparkle and shine. Okay, next card. I'm going to put these together pretty quickly. I've got my base of the striped piece from Gnomes for Winter, and then I'm going to stack that sapphire piece. And then again, I've dovetailed one side of my banner there for my sentiment on my card, and we'll stack it. And then we'll layer everything together. Okay, so I'm just using glue, gluing everything down, and then we'll stack those snowflakes. And then I'm going to add some of these iridescent crystals from Pink Fresh Studios. I'm going to scatter a bunch of those around. And they really do sparkle and shine and pick up all the colors around them. And here's some close-up shots. Love it. So pretty. Lots of sparkle. Okay, last card. Got a card base here. And then we'll stack this embossed piece on mist. And we'll glue them all together along with the sentiment that's stacked on some of the pattern papers. So be sure to click on the playlist at the end of this video. I will list all of the Makers with Heart videos for the month of December, and you'll be able to see what everyone has done with stencils and the coordinating products. Okay, same thing. I've stacked the snowflake, and then I'm going to scatter a whole bunch of these crystals around. I wasn't sure which ones I wanted to use. One has kind of a purple base, and one has a blue base, blue and black base, and I ultimately decided on the one that's a little more purpley. It sparkled, and it just seemed to go a lot better. So there's all 3 of my cards. So I'll make a list of all the supplies that I used with links in the description below, and Be sure to click on the playlist and see all the other cool things that the Makers with Heart have done this month with their projects. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. You'll be able to find all of my videos. And there's all 3 cards. So pretty. And thanks for watching.